Hi, it's Roma and welcome to my kitchen. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to teach you how to make a traditional Irish stew. I am a dual citizen of Ireland and the United States. I live here in Los Angeles, California, and my parents are from Dublin and Belfast. And I'm going to teach you how to make a stew that is so delicious and thick and stick to your ribs. We originally had Irish stew in the Guinness Factory in Dublin, Ireland, and they actually serve a really hearty, meaty stew there, which gave me the idea of, I gotta learn how to make this. So my recipe also includes 2 bottles of Guinness, and I hope you enjoy it. It's gonna be a fun journey today in my kitchen, and you're gonna learn something new. So let's get cooking. So here are all the ingredients that I use in my Guinness Irish stew. So I have 4 pounds of grass-fed lamb stew, and stew meat. It actually already comes pre-cubed, but if your butcher doesn't have it, you can ask him to cube it or cube it yourself. I've got flour. I use a gluten-free flour because it's got a lot of rice flour in it, and we've got some gluten insensitivities in our household. So I try to cook with this a lot, and there's enough rice flour that it's starchy enough that it works great. I've got olive oil. I've got the Better Than bouillon, and it's a beef bouillon, and it cuts down on the waste of like 2 cartons of beef bouillon. I've got 2 bottles of Guinness beer. I've got 3 carrots, 3 parsnips, an entire clove of garlic, onions. I love these little creamer potatoes. I just love the size. There's no chopping involved. I just have to wash them off. And then I've got 3 leeks, and I've got salt and pepper. So there you go. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna prep the onion and the leeks, and then I'm gonna chop up the garlic. So let's deal with the leeks. I've already washed the leeks. So I'm gonna cut off their tall stems. Never understood why there's such little leek. The stems grow so high before they're ready to harvest, and you don't get as much as you'd like. But I do love leeks. And when you put these in the pan, you're gonna heat the pan, and you're gonna saute these when they start to caramelize. And all of these little leek rings, if you've not used a leek before, they'll just come apart like little onions. They're so delicious. Fortunately, here in Los Angeles, I can get leeks year-round. So if you can't get leeks wherever you live, it's okay. Just add more onion. So I'm gonna add that to a bowl. All right, next up is my onion. Go ahead and peel this. These are sweet Maui onions. They're my favorite onions to cook with. They have a lot of great flavor. And they're pretty big. You can get them at Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, Vons, Ralph's, any of your local markets. So first I'm going to chop up my onion, and the onion and the garlic are going to go into the pan together. So I'm putting the onion and the garlic and the leeks all into one bowl, because they'll be, well, actually I put the garlic in a separate bowl because garlic only takes a couple minutes, otherwise it starts to burn. But I used to buy garlic that was already pre-cut, but I found that a lot of times when I had that in my fridge, the garlic would start to go rancid. So now I just buy whole bulbs of garlic, and I just take the time to, peel them, and they're fresh, and I think it just tastes so much better. So you've got the onions and the leeks in one bowl, you've got the garlic in another bowl, and now you're going to prepare your parsnips and your carrots. Now, parsnips are an old country vegetable. I grew up on them. They make a great mash and they add a really nice flavor, but some people don't like the taste of parsnips at all. So if you don't want to use parsnips, that's fine. Just sub in more carrots, or sometimes I like to use a bunch of rainbow carrots. Now, on the parsnips, they're much denser and harder than carrots, and they'll take longer to cook. So you see how the larger end of the parsnip, I'm actually cutting it in half and quartering it. You want to have all of the pieces of your carrots and parsnips to be uniform in size so they all cook together. You don't want to have big chunks of parsnip that are hard and crunchy in your soup, which can happen if you were to just cut big circular rounds of them. So that's why I do that method. And I love the little creamer potatoes. Make sure you rinse them because sometimes they do have some dirt stuck to them. Now, we're going to roll all of the pieces of lamb in the flour. And I like to use cup for cup gluten-free flour because if you've got some gluten sensitivities in your household, then it's best to not use unbleached flour. So the beauty of cup for cup or Bob's Red Mill is there's a high content of rice flour in it, so it acts as a great starch. Now here I'm going to really salt the lamb well. Lamb and pork both need a lot of salt, and I'm also going to sprinkle pepper all over them as well. So you're going to salt and pepper your pieces. Now that I've got a flat casserole dish with I have about a cup of flour in there, I'm going to coat each piece of lamb individually. And we're going to sear the lamb so that it gets a nice crispy brown golden crust on either side. Now, I'm only doing this in batches because you don't want to overcrowd the meat. You want to make sure you coat each piece. And it's always best to use your hands. It's messy, but it's worth it because you want to make sure that each piece of lamb or beef, if you're using beef, is completely covered in the flour. So I just do this in batches, and once everything gets, someone's licking my foot. Hazards of being in the kitchen with two pugs. Once you get all the meat covered in flour, now you will be ready to put it in the pan. And at the Guinness Factory, when I had the stew there, oh my gosh, it was so delicious. It was just like this rich, decadent meal, and it was a dreary day. It was raining. And gosh, leaving the Guinness Factory with that stew in my belly with some Guinness I was so happy. When my tummy's full, I'm always so happy. So now you've got the oil in the pan. I don't ever measure out oil. I don't know what size pan you're using or Dutch oven. This is a Dutch oven by Sir Latab. Great quality Dutch oven. I've had it for years. You're going to coat the bottom of the pan with just enough oil. You want to put a thick coating on the bottom because you are going to be frying up quite a bit of your lamb. 3 to 4 minutes on each side to get that nice brown crispy coating. And don't worry about all of the bits of flour that falls off and some of it burns on the bottom because that's just going to add to your flavor. And this soup is all about the flavor. You're going to do it on both sides, and then I use this, it's like a mesh spoon, big spoon that I put in a casserole dish that I line with paper towels so that it soaks up any excess oil. See all the brown bits on the bottom? Oh my gosh, when we pour that Guinness beer in there, it's all going to come up and it's just going to really thicken that sauce, the base of your stew really nicely. So you're going to do this in batches, and I also use, if you just saw me pull it off the top, splatter-proof. You can get them anywhere, Target, Walmart, anywhere that you shop, to keep the oil from splattering all over the kitchen and all over your stove. And they're inexpensive. They're about $10. But that one's really well used, and it will really help you getting splatters. Because remember, you're now adding fresh pieces of meat to a hot oil that also has other bits of burnt flour in there. So it's a recipe for splattering, 100%. And I love salt and pepper, so I salt and pepper each round of meat as it goes in. Now look at that crispy crust in the bottom of, look at that, the bottom of the pan. So I can see that I'm kind of running out of oil, so I added a little more oil, and you're going to add the leeks and the onions directly to that. And what you want to do is you just want to use a wooden spoon and saute all of that up, and it's going to get a nice caramelized look to that. So you put the lid on it, and I just keep coming back every couple of minutes and stirring it. And you see that the onions are starting to get limp and brown. And here's my final time coming back to stir that. You see how beautiful it is? Look at the colors. Now you're going to add in the garlic. And the garlic I stir around for about 3 minutes because garlic will burn pretty quickly. Look at that. Ugh. Now you're going to add your 3 tablespoons of flour. Again, I'm using cup for cup flour. This is going to be used as a thickener to give your stew a real nice thickness to it. Nobody wants a drippy stew. So it's important that you remember this step. I think the first time I made stew, I forgot to put it in, and I was like, what did I do wrong? Why is it so drippy? Ah, the magic sauce. Guinness beer, 2 bottles of Guinness beer. These bottles are a Guinness draft, and they're about 11.5 ounces each. Guinness Draught. And that beer, you'll smell it. 95%, even more, 95 to 97% of that beer is the alcohol is going to burn off. So you're not going to have like a drunk stew or anything, in case you're wondering. So now I'm going to add all of the lamb back to the Guinness, and you're just going to get it all in there. Oh my gosh, that looks so yummy. You're just going to incorporate that in. Look at that, the richness of that. And then I'm going to add beef broth. My potatoes, my parsnips, everything else that goes into the stew. And you want to make sure that your broth covers. If I put a lid on that and walked away right now, you'd have hard bits of vegetables. You got to make sure that you always cover all your vegetables and meat. So we're adding more beef broth to that so that everything is covered. And then you put a lid on it, and you just keep checking in on it. This is about at the 1 hour mark. And look at that. So you're going to want to taste test. I usually take out a piece of lamb, and I'll take out a piece of parsnip, and I'll cut them in half, and I'll do a taste test, and I'll continue to cook in 15-minute batches. So this is about 90 minutes of cooking this stew. Look at the richness. That's that Guinness beer plus the beef broth plus the flour that you used. And I've been pawed to death this whole process, so they know it's ready too. Well, here's the finished version. It has been simmering for 90 minutes on a medium to high flame, and the juices from the lamb, the Guinness beer, and let's digress here for a second. The Guinness Factory. If you have not gone to the Guinness Factory in Ireland, Dublin, Ireland, you need to put it on your list. We had the best time. We were there for a few hours. We did all of the tours, all of the tastings. We got to see how they've made it for hundreds of years. And they make stew there with Guinness. And it was out of this world. And it was at that moment I said, I've got to learn how to make my own. So the Guinness makes it. You can also make it without Guinness if you don't want to, and I'll give you those instructions in the link. But look at how rich this sauce is. It is such a wonderful comfort food. I make it in the fall and winter, and boy, is it delicious. So let's just take a little bite here. The meat just melts in your mouth. I'm telling you, you've got to make this. And you've got to serve it with a piece of baguette because this sops up all the juices. It is delicious.
and my toe is getting licked by one of my kitchen gnomes. Anyway, thanks for joining me today. I hope you make this. I'd love for you to leave me a comment below and tell me what you think. And hopefully this will become one of your favorite go-to stews like it is ours here at Casa Barba. All right, take care.
To get my recipe, click the link below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and smash that bell for future updates.